Shalom, everyone. Shalom. Before we get started, I just want to, a short security piece. If anybody needs to leave for any reason, we ask that you please leave out the main entrance and not these exits. This is just for emergencies, and we shouldn't have an emergency situation today. So if you need to leave, outside the sanctuary doors. So we're here today to remember our beloved Meraly Brown, a loving mother, sister, grandmother, and friend. Cantor Devorah Avery, cantorial soloist Holly Berman, and I will be leading our service together today. It is said that mourning is the price we pay for having the courage to love others. Even in grief, we know that the wonder of human life is too complex and too magnificent to be memorialized in endless pain. The beautiful and powerful gifts of spirit Meraly gave in her life cannot be weighed or measured, nor can they be lost or even tarnished by time. Even in our darkest hours, we know that some of Meraly's light and warmth will always be with us, bringing comfort and courage, and in the fullness of time, healing and peace. Above all things, Meraly's family brought her joy. She loved them so much, was proud of them, and cared for them deeply. Here to honor her are her daughter Natalie and husband Gerchka, her daughter Deborah and husband Drew, daughter Amy and husband Charles, her son Josh and his wife Bat-El, they'll be here soon, and Andrew, son Andrew and wife Devorah, who will also be here soon, and also sisters Marcia and Linda and their husbands. And we also acknowledge in this sacred space and time her daughter Julie, Zikrona Livraha, and husband Mike. Just as the love of Meraly's family and friends brought her comfort and joy and peace, we can find solace in the knowledge that Meraly was surrounded by her loved ones in her last moments and knew she was loved until her last breath. We remember Meraly and join our hearts together to give comfort and strength to her family. The words of our psalms here have brought comfort to generations of mourners. We turn now to one such psalm, Psalm 23, which will be sung by cantorial soloist Holly Berman.
A familiar psalm. With God as my shepherd, I rest in green pastures. God leads me beside still waters and restores my soul. Therefore, I shall not want. I walk in right paths for the sake of the divine name. And even when I walk in the valley of death's shadow, O God, I shall not fear, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. You have prepared a table before me, even in the presence of my enemies, and you have anointed my head with oil. My cup is overflowing. Surely goodness and mercy will pursue me as long as I live, and I shall dwell in your house forever. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar, binot asher yarbitzeni, amei menuchot yanaleni. Nafshi eshovev, nafshi eshovev, yancheni v'magle tzedek, oy leman shemo, gam ki eilech begeit salmavet. Lo irara ki ata imadi, shivtecha umishantecha, shivtecha umishantecha, hema yenachamuni, tahal Taroch lefanai shulchan, taroch lefanai shulchan, taroch lefanai shulchan, neged zorerai. Di shanta vashem en roshi, di shanta vashem en roshi. Di shanta vashem en roshi, kosi revaya. Achtov vachesed, yirdefuni kol yemei chayai. Veshavti beveit Adonai. Veshavti beveit Adonai. L'orech yamim.
Kohelet wrote, "The eye never has its fill of seeing." Young or old, those who depart this life never see enough of the world, never complete their task, never cherish their loved ones enough before they are called home. How they yearn for yet another respite from the final summons, and how we yearn to have them close to us for yet another challenge in our lives, yet another joy, yet another precious moment together. God, be now with those whose hearts are broken, because whenever parting comes, it is too soon. Console them at this moment. Be near to them when light seems distant. Sustain them, O God, until the time of healing. It's a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, to hope, dream, to be and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me. Your laugh once lifted me. Your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing to love what death has touched.
Meraly taught me how to be fully present and engaged with others, how to take care to make sure everyone has what they need, and how to be a strong advocate and leader. She was a role model to me. I told her that as often as I could. Maybe she brought you food as she did for me when I was ill, assisted your aging parent, shared a wonderful adventure, or just showed up looking totally cute. But I bet you all have meaningful memories. Having known your family since the 90s, I watched you grow up, celebrate milestones, face inordinate challenges, and navigate life. I see her love and influence in each of you, in each of us. Thank you for that, Meraly. Let's share those memories and insights. I'm going to be inviting some of you to speak, to share your thoughts, your eulogies, and to share those memories and insights. So I think we're going to begin with Linda.
Everybody. I don't have anything formally prepared, but just as the oldest sister of the 4 girls, I wanted to throw in a few things. Just so many fun memories with Meraly and Marshall fill you in. But Meraly's least favorite foods was liver and mashed potatoes. And I always said to her, Mother worked so hard to make these things, you'll have to eat it. So when I wasn't looking, Meraly would put everything in a napkin and hide it in her pockets. So didn't find that out till years later. But most of all, we shared so many fun trips with our mother. We took cruises, we did other things, and then when our mother passed away, just the four sisters would go on trips. And then, unfortunately, Meraly and I were both single, so we did some cruises and trips to see Marsh and Hal in Arizona. And our last memory was hiking. Hal, Marsh, and I were always, and Meraly, walking together, and the next thing, where's Meraly? We're looking all around. No, Meraly. Where was she? Sitting on a rock talking to Dulcie, worried about all her people at work and taking care of everybody. And we just couldn't believe it. And then we'd catch up with her, and a few minutes later, she would disappear again. But those are just some of
That was talking to her children.
children at night. So at 1 in the morning, regularly, Meraly would call me. Wait, I can't talk to you. 12 o'clock Boulder time, 1 o'clock Chicago time. What's wrong? Andrew's calling, or this one's calling. I said, okay. She said, I'll call you back. So I'd wait, and I'd wait. I'd take a nap, and at 3, 4 in the morning, Meraly called back. I don't think she ever slept. But anyway, there's just endless memories, but I just thought those would be some fun times to share with everybody. Thank you.
Our dear, sweet, very loving Meraly, you'll always be in our hearts forever and ever. Meraly loved with all of her heart and her soul. She would do anything in her power to help her family and her friends. Many times she would be running late, and often it was because she was baking a treat or preparing a meal for someone in need, or just listening to someone who needed a special person who cares very deeply about them. Meraly and I are just a little over a year apart in age, and we often shared friends and clothes. We always supported each other. Well, sometimes we tattled on each other also, especially when we were in the same classroom 2 different years in elementary school. Meraly lived in Chicago after being married to Ken and attended Roosevelt University's education department, just as I had done. When she was ready to student teach, we finagled it so that she student taught not only at the same school that I was teaching at, but also in the same grade with my co-teacher. So we saw each other every day, and we shared many teaching ideas, not to mention lots of school gossip. Our heart-to-heart talks were endless, especially after we didn't have to pay for toll calls or long distance. When Meraly used to stay with Hal and myself during her Chicago visits, Hal used to find us curled up on the couch yakking until 2 or 3 in the morning. As we got older, he would tease us because he found us on the couch but dozing during those late night talks. Meraly used to visit Chicago, often to spend quality time with our mom and us 3 sisters. Hal and I were fortunate that she and her children often stayed with us. Our 3 daughters used to love the visits with their Colorado cousins. They always enjoyed city excursions and art projects together. But their very favorite thing to do was create skits or a talent show and present it to Grandma May and us aunties. COVID was a great time for our long-distance friendship. Finally, Meraly had time during the day instead of late at night to talk on the telephone. We even shared her Colorado exercise class online on our televisions, and we would wave to each other, making faces using our iPads simultaneously. Meraly was always a very special sister and friend to me. She listened, and she never judged. We often sought out each other's advice on everything from child raising to menus for a dinner party. Our favorite things to do together were shopping, eating at restaurants, and sharing our recipes. I think many of us right here enjoy Aunt Marcia rice and Aunt Meraly's Caesar salad and our combined key lime pie. When our husbands were in school and just starting their careers, we would often buy one outfit and take turns wearing it. Later, when we lived in different cities, several times we found that we bought the same shoes or the same top. We were always on the same wavelength and very much connected. We even shared the same wedding dress, and we shared our last name Brown also. Meraly, my dear, you left us very far too soon. You were always so full of life and deeply loved by so many. You fought with incredible strength and determination. I will miss you, my dear sister, my endlessly grateful for everything that we have shared. You will always be in my heart, forever, to the moon and back.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ronnie Brown, Meraly's sister-in-law. For over 18 months, we knew this day was coming. Reality has set in terribly. Our hearts are broken. Meraly and I have had a close relationship for well over 40 years. She was a sister I never had. We called each other sis, which was so loving, so meaningful, and endearing to me. We shared wonderful times together, as well as sad times too. Simchas and holidays were made more special, being shared with our two families. Our daughter Kim came in last week so she could sit with Meraly, sing to her, and say goodbye. Our son Craig made many visits to Meraly and shared medical insights with Deborah, as well as his last visit with his wife Kim to say goodbye and sit with the family. They will miss their Aunt Meraly. We all know what a fabulous cook Meraly was. When I make one of her recipes, they are special, but not as good as she made them. Ronald always marveled about the delicious blueberry muffins that Meraly would make for him, probably at 1 o'clock in the morning. Meraly and I had opposite bedtime habits. I would be in bed by 10, and she would be up for hours after that. She never would call me after 10 o'clock, but whenever the phone rang at 9:58, I knew it was Meraly. We had special chats together. We would talk about our children, our grandchildren, recipes, trips we were taking, clothes to wear, special dates that Meraly would go on, just to name a few subjects. And speaking of clothes, did you ever see anybody dress so adorable as Meraly did? She was quite the dresser. And speaking of clothes, the skirt I am wearing today was one that I shared with Meraly for many trips to Israel. I just felt it appropriate to be wearing it today. As we have all said, Meraly was the most wonderful, caring, loving, beautiful person on this earth. She was gorgeous, inside and out, with a smile that warmed your heart and a twinkle in her eye. She had her own special ways of making you feel loved. In my family alone, she never forgot a birthday or anniversary for Ronald and I, our children, and our grandchildren. Meraly, my dear sis, you will be missed so very much. I will have a special place in my heart for you forever. I will continue to love you always and remember how much you meant to me and still mean to me. To Deborah and Drew, Amy and Charles, Mike, Andrew and Devorah, Natalie and Gershka, Josh and Batil, and all the grandkids, my heart goes out to each one of you. Please know that Uncle Ronald and I are here for you whenever you need us. To Marcia, Linda, and Susie, thank you for sharing your sis with me. Dearest Meraly, I am grateful that your struggling is over and you are at peace. I know you are resting comfortably next to your beloved Julie. I'm going to miss you so very much. I love you.
I love taking turns. I want to mention something. I just have a few things to say today. When and how do you really know someone? You ask them questions, you observe, you look them in the eyes, and you listen sincerely and carefully. Meraly did all these things. She had a caregiving business. I was able to witness these traits firsthand when she serviced my mother-in-law, my wife Carla's mom. She serviced Dobby for 2 years. In her spare time, Meraly would bring cookies over, play Scrabble, Phase 10 on her free time. She'd share snacks. Meraly treated Dobby as a friend, not as a business. She enhanced her mom's enjoyment of life those last 2 years that she cared for her. Meraly was a true ray of sunshine and a beautiful rainbow. I looked up online if there was a female version of the word Mensch, and there is not. It started in Germany, and then it became Yiddish. Meraly is a true Mensch. Anytime Carla and I were around her, her friendship showed through to everybody. Her kindness showed through to everyone. She always had a beautiful heart and a smile for others. She respected everyone. She had a love for everyone. She was a genuine human being. Carla and I love Meraly very much. Thank you.
I'm Charles, Meraly's son-in-law, Amy's husband, and I just wanted to say a few words about Meraly because our relationship has how our relationship has developed in the past. I'd say 4 years. I didn't really. Amy and I have known each other 16 years, and Meraly was Amy's mother for a lot of those years, and I didn't really. I paid retail at the stores, so Meraly and I didn't really we didn't really gel too much. But since the pandemic, Amy and I have spent many months living with Meraly. I work in TV out in LA, and pandemic really shut everything down. So Amy and I came out to Colorado, and we ended up staying 6 months. And Meraly was welcoming to us, and we got to the point where we all called each other roommates, and Amy and I got to see Meraly's daily life, from sunup to sundown, and she was up around 8 or 9 in the morning, and usually in bed by like 3. So there's not a lot of sleep going on there. So over time, Meraly and I started to feel, like comfortable with each other, and we got closer, and I was like accepted more into her inner space, and I would like certain foods like salmon and pineapple and watermelon, stuff like that, and it's not like I would tell her like, hey, I like this stuff. She would just notice that I liked it more than other things, and sure enough, the next day or two, she would show up with a pineapple or a watermelon or salmon. We'd do salmon nights, and we never had a discussion about it. She just knew it. So that was extremely special to me. And Meraly was, her day was, up in the morning and out the door, usually 10 minutes late, to go see a customer of hers, whoever it was. She had many that loved her, and she would do that. She would come back in the middle of the day, and then she'd go out again to see someone else. And she had often she had social events. She did book club. She did other clubs at the Peloton, and mahjong. She invited us to mahjong once just because she wanted us there, and that was pretty cool. So we really got to see how her life was, and it was busy, but in a good way. Like she was helping, like everyone's saying, she's just helping someone after the next. And then at midnight, I always knew she had some kind of deal going on the next day when she started baking cookies. She got the ponytail up and in the pajamas and in the kitchen for like 2 hours baking cookies. Because I knew she was doing something in the morning, had to be done. And then after the cookies were in the oven, then she would get on the phone with the kids in Israel, because it's their morning. And then she would fall asleep on the phone eventually, or we'd watch Bridgerton together, and she'd fall asleep because it's like 1 in the morning. So a couple stories I remember of Meraly. One was we were eating dinner at the Gondolier, finishing up the night, and there was another table full of people, and she goes over to the table and she's like, "Hey, you're the candy lady. I know you. Remember us? And so for 2 minutes, the lady's thinking like, I could see in her face like confusion, and it turns out that the lady they didn't know each other at all. It was 2 minutes of that. So, but because of Meraly's amazing social skills, we actually got their phone numbers. We became friends. These random people at the restaurant. It's just typical Meraly. And let's see what else. I remember Meraly yelling at her phone for Siri because we were trying to find out what Helen Hunt movie or something or other until she'd yell at the phone until Siri would say, "All right, I'm doing the best I can." I'm not kidding. I've never heard a phone say that to somebody. There was one time. Okay, so there's this relationship show that Amy and I like to listen to. Or a long time ago. It's not really much anymore. But Meraly was having some relationship issues, and Amy was in Colorado with her, and I was in LA. And I just happened to turn on the radio station at work while I'm doing something, and I hear this familiar voice, and it's Meraly calling into the show to ask some relationship questions, in like simple questions like, should I keep seeing him? And all that, and so the lady who runs the show tends to get into deep details real quick. So she started her asking really explicit questions that were not appropriate to repeat here. And so Amy's with Meraly, and Meraly runs away from Amy, doesn't want her to hear, runs into the closet, because that's the quietest place in the house, and she answers all these questions, not knowing that I'm in LA listening to the show. And the last story I want to end with is, so Rabbi earlier today mentioned that the soul continues, the body is, leaves the body and the soul continues, which I do believe in, and I actually have proof. I'm going to relay this story. So it's been a very tough year and a half, and the last week and a half especially, and Amy and I were out here last weekend, and then I went back to LA to go to work, and Amy stayed, and I had planned on coming on Friday. I made a plane ticket. So we found out Friday, and I was on my way. I threw everything together, was on my way through Phoenix. I was leaving LA, and for I don't know why, I took a piece of something with me that it's very important to me. It's a hard drive with basically my entire life on it. Taxes, unredacted, lots of files that are very important to me that I keep usually in a safe place. But for some reason, I took it with me. I don't know why, and had it in a little pouch. And in the LA airport, when they called my group, I was putting stuff together. So I was like, threw everything together and ran to the gate, and realized on the flight there that I left this bag at LAX. So I'm like, that's my whole life. If someone gets that, that's really bad news. I still don't know what's happened to it right now. But so I get to Phoenix, and I tell Amy, I'm having a hard time with it. And, I'm remembering back on the last week, and I'm like, I think, I've had this feeling for a week, like I've been in trouble with Meraly or something. And I don't know if I told a story that she was embarrassed about and didn't want me to tell her, or maybe I didn't show up to help out enough, something. I couldn't tell what it was, and that's often with Meraly. You can't tell what it is sometimes, and she has very indirect ways of telling you. So the conversation about a shomer comes up that Natalie's been spending 24 hours at the place, and someone needs to relieve her. So I told Amy, I said, you know what, I think I owe Meraly something. I don't know what it is, but I got to fix this. So I'll volunteer to relieve Natalie for a couple hours if she needs it. When I get to. So as I'm on the phone, just as I told Amy this, the LAX police call me and they say, we found your hard drive. So what I interpreted was, that Meraly wasn't very happy with me with something, and she's going to make some mischief and take my hard drive for a little bit and really give me a hard time because she didn't like what I was doing. I don't know what it was, but I sensed something that she had something to do with it. But anyway, so I'm going to remember Meraly very fondly. I will not be paying retail too much after knowing her. She's got good tricks, but I'll miss her very much, and we'll both miss her very much. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Hello. I think it just got really real that my mom is gone because she's been with us, this whole time and still there. But Finny Boo's having a good time up here, and I normally look to my mom to tell me, she would probably just grab him up and take him out into the lobby and play and have a good time. My mom played a really important role in helping, especially with the first 6 months Finn was born. And I think, that's what parents do, right? They teach us good, they teach us bad, right from wrong, and they, more than anything else, they model for us the way that we want to raise our kids and to be parents so that they can grow up and to bring forward the legacy. You're still mocking. Come up here. You want to come up here and say something about Grandmere? Will that make you feel better? I just feel like my mom, if she were here right now, would know exactly what to say to make my sweet little angel feel better about her being gone. And just like everybody else has said, my mom she loved Drew. She loved Drew a lot. She loved all of her son-in-laws and daughter-in-laws. She'd be so incredibly proud that despite what has been a very challenging time, we come together. That's what we do. We're family. We come together. And, with the through lines of the clothing and the food, raise your hand if my mom ever made a meal for you. If my mom brought you a meal, if my mom sat Shiva for you, if my mom cared for a loved one, this room, every single person in this room was touched by the generosity and kindness of my mother. And that's what I will take forward from her more than anything else is, everyone talked about how much she worked, she was hiking, but she would clear her schedule if we needed help with Finn. She would clear her schedule if I needed to talk to her. She was always there, first and foremost, as a mother, as a friend, as a boss, as a sister, as everything to everybody else. She always put everybody else's needs before hers. And I think she'd be very grateful to see you all here to honor her memory. She literally would take the clothing off her back. One of the 2 stories I'll share very quickly is we were going to, in the year Obama got elected, we were going to a party and the theme was wear purple, unity, all that, right? And so I went to the thrift store, I went to ARC, I got a dress and it was dated. No, this is the time before you were born, and Grandmere shows up in this, of course, looking spectacular in a dress that she looked amazing in, and of course I commented, and she literally took the dress off of her back and gave it to me to put on and wore this terrible looking dress that I had bought at the thrift store, and that is literally who my mom was. I think the other thing that I'll always carry forward, and I'm so grateful that, Amanda had the privilege of a summer with Grandmere where she made you feel like the center of your universe. We've all had those times, and for me it was Caesar salad. My mom would always make Caesar salad. That was the thing she made for me, and I'm so grateful that Finney loves making Caesar salad with me, and that and cookies is our new thing. And so, these past 18 months I've learned a lot about myself, things that I think she'd be proud of that I didn't think I had in me, caregiving especially. And I feel like even till the last very day, she was coaching me and encouraging me and reminding me that I could do for her what she would do for me, and that she very much was with us till the very, very end. And I'm very grateful, and will work very hard to honor her legacy, both in parenting and with the integrity of my work, and to be a good friend first and foremost, to put others first. So, Mama Vero, miss you very much. I know you'll be with us, I hope, like in some visible, present way, coaching. Thank you.
I'm just going to prepare you. This is not short. I'm sorry. But I'm not sorry, my mom, because I feel like it does it justice. Sorry. Thank you, everyone, for coming. It's so uplifting to see the support and love my mom's garnished through her life. It's no surprise we filled the room like it's the high holy days, except that most of you came on time. And that's something that my mom and I never did when I was growing up. And so in her honor, I shall carry on that tradition, as some of you have noticed, I was late today. And she herself wasn't even on time for her own death because everyone was pushing an earlier date, and her strength and will to live prevailed. So yes, we are on Meraly time. And while today she was the first one here, and she's the last to leave, and she is unmistakably worth the wait. Our motto was and will remain, always late but worth the wait. Hence, another thing I did in her honor was stay up until 3:36 in the morning writing this. No, I wasn't baking a dessert for a client, but Mom and I are alike, and it's in the wee hours of sleep deprivation and procrastination we produce our best-ish. I could have written a eulogy, trilogy for you all, but lucky you, it's just a mini-series. There were just so many wonderful memories about my mom, but also cruel injustices that she and our family suffered these past 18 months. When anyone dies, the circumstances surrounding their death are always unfortunate, but for my mom, these circumstances are particularly tragic. Please know that it has taken every ounce of my exhausted, grieving, and not fully conscious mind to resist exposing the unfortunate details of my mother's death. I'd be lying if I didn't say I fantasized that we'd have ourselves a Cruel Intentions movie moment. Of course, today would be a more modern take where instead of mid-eulogy, you're getting flyer handouts revealing the truth. Instead, you're all receiving a link that says, Truth Seekers and Justice for Meraly, click here. If we ever rise to the occasion, please know it's not spam, but finally many things brought to light that has been quite a journey for our whole family. And speaking of journeys, there are 5 stages of grief I've come to learn, and perhaps coincidentally, there are also 5 of us children that our mom has left behind. But more importantly, there's only one favorite child. And in this dissertation, I will be defending my position. More on that later. First, it's been a long service, and I need you to buckle up for an even longer eulogy. I'm sure most of you are looking to me to bring the humor, but what you weren't expecting was for me to bring the physical activity to get you out of your chairs. So with that, can you please humor me and do this little exercise if you're able to stand? Can you please stand if you've known our mom for approximately 5 years or less? Just that amount of time, not more, 5 years or less. Okay. Okay, thank you. How about 10 years? If you've known her up to 10 years. How about if you've known her up to 20 years? How about if you've known her up to 30 years? And finally, how many of you have known her 50 plus years? I thought so. You can all sit now, thank you. And for the few of you that were able to stand in that last bit, please know that I envy you. You got to spend more time with my mom, more precious time that she's been so unfairly robbed of. I'll never understand how someone as healthy as my mom suffered 3 strokes or spontaneous brain bleeds. I like that term more. Spontaneity fits better with her personality. I'm grateful that amongst the last 18 months we've been with her, that I was privileged enough to spend nearly every day with her. And thank you, long-distance husband, and thank you, Snapchat, until July 16th, and then thank you, my very dear local friends and our Jewish community members that enabled me to continue to spend time with my mom. When I say I really feel like we had a village, really had a village, so thank you, friends. The past 18 months through each of my mom's visitors, I benefited from some pretty wonderful mom stories. Now, if I may, can we do one more exercise? This time, I'll just make you raise your hand. How about that? If you've had the opportunity to visit my mom in the last 18 months, whether a hospital or rehab facility, can you please raise your hand? Do you see that, Mom? That's pretty cool. Thank you to each and every one of you. And if you had an opportunity just now to look around, you are exactly what kept her tethered to this earth, and her continual commitment to heal and her desire to live. I know this may take a bit of radical acceptance here, and I'm happy to confirm with videos after this if you'd like, but believe it or not, our mom had no desire to give up and end her life despite all she has suffered. And I am not going to deny she was not in physical pain, and she truly suffered. But I know this may be challenging to accept and hear, but she wanted to stay with you all. She wanted to stay with all of us. Despite literally sitting with my mom when she died, and for warning everyone that she would pass on Friday the 13th on her father's yahrzeit, as he died on Friday the 13th, and my sister on the Friday the 13th. I'm still unable to accept that she's gone. Even now, writing this in her hospice room while staring at her lifeless body for more than 24 hours now, I still keep awaiting the moment I hear a snore, and it turns out her sleep apnea was just on a whole other level. I feel silly even having such hopeful thoughts. This is what we call the first stage. Welcome to our first stop on the train, denial. Denial was not just a comfortable place to live after Mom's first stroke. Denial is where I resided as long as possible these last 18 months. At least I felt that I could be her number one cheerleader and continue to evoke, I apologize, being one of her top cheerleaders, and continue to evoke faith in her rehabilitation. It was only when the facility doctor and staff disappointed us and said several comments that I will not share here anymore after thinking about it, and after many frustrating months of us advocating protecting our mom, that my inner child living in denial got back on that train and found a new home at the next stop. For those of you who truly knew my mom, knew that she was the ice queen of grudges. Welcome to the train stop of anger. They weren't petty, but my goodness, if you didn't show up for her in the way a friend should, see you never. I actually loved that about my mom. She was very loyal to her friends, and if you broke her heart, she held true to her hurt, and suddenly you were off the ladies' lunch list. You didn't show up to our daughter's wedding? Sorry, my phone hasn't been working lately. Oops. This year, I've learned I might be a chip off the old block, which brings us to stop number 2 on our grieving journey, anger. As mentioned, I've made this one my home. This one was easy to write about, as I've laid awake riddled with hurt and anger for several months since her unofficial hospice was forced by the Hoover facility and my mom's hopes for rehabilitation were dashed away. I suppose my frustration dates back to May 31st, and I've cut a lot of these bullet points, but just a few of them I'll just call out. As I started with, I'm angry at the man she was with on a date who didn't recognize she was having a stroke and brushed the obvious signs off as old age quirks. I'm angry at Swedish Hospital for unfairly assigning her a wrongful diagnosis of CAA that prevented her from receiving appropriate care. I'm angry at Swedish Hospital for the accidental inclusion on her medical record of colon and breast cancer, to which barely an apology was found, declaring it was simply a clerical error. Oops, that later turned into her receiving wrongful detrimental medications. I'm angry that my mom's life work and company went to someone who would have damaged her reputation. I'm angry she was treated as an elder even when we thought dyeing her hair would garnish more respect. I'm angry she was forgotten on her birthday, except of course when her dear friend Barb came to visit. Her dear friend Barb always came to visit. She came every day this week. I'm angry with family members who felt paying a strange or an exorbitant amount of her hard-earned money was better than the judgment of her own family's care, which ironically, it was the guardian who ended up torturing her, after all. I'm angry that that same guardian was paid to deceive her kids and rob her of water and sustenance, leaving her to suffer and starve for a week against halacha law, to which we define as murder. I'm angry between the facility guardian and her company successor that blocked her own children from contact with her, unable to know about her well-being or even her vitals at the end. The amount of harassment that we endured from these sources is sickening. And finally, one more. I'm angry you had a friend who called me elated when I shared we had to go to the hospice route. If you were here, they certainly would not be on your lunch list. Finally, I'm angry with myself that when I was with you and you had your second stroke, I ignored your plea to not go to the hospital. And I'll never know if staying would have thwarted your third and most damaging stroke that occurred at Swedish. And most of all, I'm angry at how broken my heart is and that the good you dedicated your life to and the passionate personal touch that was unmistakably you won't be felt again. Thank you for letting me say all that. I know that it isn't fair to everyone to hear that, but I have been tortured with that information for a very long time. Actually, a lot of us have been. And now we arrive at bargaining. Clearly, I'm bad at it, as here we are. Clearly, I didn't have much to bargain with. I tell you, it wasn't for a lack of effort, though. When I flew last Thursday, not knowing if I'd see my mom before she died, I made all sorts of TRLs to God. For those who don't know, that's Total Request Live. I also did a whole lot of bargaining on the longest flight of my life from Israel to Colorado on June 1st, 2023. Actually, that one I must have picked up some bargaining skills at the Shook because I did get some time with my mom as I had begged, prayed, and traded for. Actually, that reminds me, Gerechka, I'm sorry, but because of that, we need to move to a kibbutz in Israel, give up your Apple products, and have 7 kids. I'll fill you in on the rest later. Sorry. To be honest, I do recall after Mom's 3rd stroke offering up my life for hers. It seemed like a really good deal to me. This world, this community needs her. Miss Meraly has done more good in her pinky than most of us in 10 years, and certainly myself. Truly, have you ever met a more selfless person? Bargaining was something my mom was really good at. By the way, all the anger's out. This all gets happy now, okay? Bargaining was something my mom was really good at. I have these memories of family trips to Puerto Vallarta when I was a child, where my mom worked her magic in the markets. She was still fair, though. Not fair to the extent where little Deborah would tip vendors for charging her double, but she was fair. I'm not sure if this qualifies as bargaining, but my mom was infamous for her ability to get out of a speeding ticket. Sure, at one point it cost her putting on a whole charade at the hospital that she was in labor after getting a police escort, but I'm happy to report no ticket was given. My favorite was the time when we visited Julie in Fort Collins, and on the drive back when she was pulled over, she quickly whispered to me to pop out my then temporary front teeth post-horse accident and say that we were on the way to the hospital. I did not oblige. I was a hormonal teenager, please. Of course. And the stink-faced look she gave me, I hope stays ingrained in my brain forever. She was so pissed, but it was so funny. To this day, I'm not aware of a single speeding ticket my mom has ever received. She still didn't get one from that night. But my mom was a gangster like that. Drive in the emergency ambulance lane, no time for ski traffic down the mountain, gangster. But Notorious MGB wasn't just a gangster in that facet, but as her kids certainly know, Mom is a legendary customer they talk about at Nordstrom's and Costco, who managed to return an item they didn't even sell there. I think it was back in December of 2011 when I did the temporary move-in with a parent after college to inflict curfew on your mother trend. Yes, you heard that correctly. I had to give my mother a curfew because, as you've heard already, she does not sleep. A certain sibling teased the only reason Mom got a puppy was because the guy selling sage out of his van was cold and the adopter was a no-show, so he knocked down the adoption price. That would make it a sale puppy. Of course, he only took cash, so naturally my mom convinced the Costco auto department to let her return her tire that was going to remain on her car and buy it back with a card so she could use that cash for the sale puppy. I would say it's brilliant if you ask me. Speaking of returns, Notorious MGB was likely on the first-name basis with every Boulder grocery store manager. If she didn't like the food she bought, she returned it. The melon was overripe, though half-eaten, returned it. The cheese wasn't cheesy enough, returned it. 0 funds given. I've never been a good gifter, but one time I thought I had nailed it. I gave her a cute sign that read, "If I don't shop today, what will I return tomorrow?" When I flew home for a visit, I was bummed I couldn't find the sign. I guess she returned it. But I'm glad because the little highs I know my mom got from balancing the sales scales was everything. Sometimes I'd outsmart her and give her a gift and pretend I accidentally left the tag on, which happened to be slashed by me to appear as a sale item. I swear she mostly kept those gifts. I really had her number, or as my mom would say, I knew my customers. Now we've moved on to depression. I have some good news for you all. We've now arrived at our second last stop, depression. If you haven't walked out or tuned out by now, you're in luck. I haven't spiraled into this stage just yet. We're about 4 hours too early. Check back tonight and certainly by June 13th. And as much as I'm sure you'd all love to hear about the depression my mom went through after my sister Julie's passing, I'll spare you this one. Instead, I'll share that I know the one thing that was her lifeline during that lengthy, ongoing, dark period was her grief support group here at Har HaShem. And thank you to Rabbi Bronstein. I'll always be incredibly grateful to the wonderful people that comforted my mom. Finally, you have all arrived at our last stop of the 5 stages of grief, acceptance. You have arrived, not me. I'll keep holding down that depression and anger spot for the rest of you. As previously mentioned, on our first train stop of denial, I had the honor with my husband of doing our first mitzvah of being a shomeret, and him a shomer. And if those of you who don't know what that is, because I'm sure you've been hearing this term a lot, I didn't know either until it was happening, is that in Jewish law, we believe that between someone passing and being buried, they should not be left alone and should always be watched. Like 100%, 24/7, always be watched. And there are many halacha laws or rules that go with that, like no eating in their presence, no drinking anything in their presence, no doing any sort of mitzvahs that their soul would be envious that you're able to do and they're not able to do. Anyways, so going back to that, unexpected shomer and shomerette. I will say shomerette sounds like an Israeli a cappella group, but I'll take it. This was a new tradition to us both, and since my brothers were already observing Shabbat, we didn't have someone to disclose all the laws of the mitzvah, or which psalms we should be reading from Chabad.org. So we decided it would be a respectful thing for us to gamify it, and anytime we accidentally swore in the presence of my mom's soul, we would read a psalm. Fret not, Andrew. Mom had an abundance of psalms read to her neshama. Perhaps it's the sleep deprivation, but I will say when my brother ended up taking last night on as a shomer shift unexpectedly, and thank you so much for that, I got a little bit peeved that he was trying to steal the show here. Outdo us and go for the final run for favorite of moms in the 11th hour. I can't help it, Mama Bear. I'm your mini you, and as everyone says, I'm competitive, and only you have yourself to blame. If anyone has played my mom in Rummy Cube, then you have seen what it is to stare in the face of utter ruthless competitiveness. When she came to visit us in LA and lost 3 games in a row, she insisted it was the chair I was sitting in and made me switch her chairs. And if you're wondering, after we swapped chairs, I did win my 4th game in a row. And not to toot my own horn here, but it was while baking challah at 2 a.m. I digress, and now we've come full circle to the bit about being mother's favorite. Though it's quite unfair to the other 5 that I've got the leg up that I'm mom's mini, I want this to be heard loud and clear. That just a few months ago, one of mom's great caretakers, Jessica, she was new. I had not met Jessica yet, though I was at the facility every day. This time I met Jessica on FaceTime. And when mom was able to speak, she legitimately introduced me to Jessica, and I quote, her favorite daughter. So there's still hope for you, Andrew. Sadly, Jessica moved, but I do think we need to put her into a witness protection program along with Rosie, another amazing caretaker who wanted to see mom heal. Now the train has reached the terminal. Terminal, a word I used to describe my mother's state and far too prematurely. But as I said before, I've still got a few stops. My mom was a true workaholic. She started her company, Brighter Days for Seniors, more than 16 years ago. And my mom was beyond devoted to her clients. But that's just who she was. The most selfless person you'd ever meet, as everyone mentioned before me. She would give you anything you needed, a dress off her back. And when Deborah was sharing that, Gertrude leaned into me and said, oh yeah, your mom, I watched your mom do that for you too. And we loved that about her. But it was also so challenging to see her deplete herself so terribly. The only solace I have is knowing that I truly did everything in my power to support her, advocate for her, and comfort her. And though I myself am depleted, fully and completed, from this she showed me that I am capable of more love and selflessness than I have ever known possible. And I will take that to the grave, yours and mine. And I will just like to add that I only learned today that she was cheating on me with Bridgerton, with Charles, and I had no idea. And that really disturbs me. And thank you again all for coming here. I know that this was all, even though 18 months, we didn't think that this time would feel sudden, but for some of us at least, it feels incredibly sudden. And I know she would love to see you all here. She probably can see you all here. When we were at the graveside and the wind was howling and it felt pretty angry, he was like, that's mom, that's your mom. It's like, that's mom, but she'll be with us. For Julie, now I'm going off book and then I'm done, sorry. For Julie, she was told that every time she would find a penny, that was Julie. And I told Amy that as Mom was dying, I said, please don't send me pennies. Send me $100 bills. When I find them, I'll think of you. And I hope you guys will continue to carry my mom, as I know you guys kept her alive. So thank you.
So as we all know, and as we heard, Meraly was a giver. She collected people, family, friends, clients, community. All of us here were recipients of her fierce love and care. And in wanting to express and share some of that care back to her, so many of us visited her over these last months. As a beautiful byproduct of that love, her room was filled to the brim with gorgeous and colorful flowers. She was always surrounded. You might have noticed a variety of vases, maybe even one you originally brought to her room in the social hall as you walked into the sanctuary. As a testament to Meraly's always giving spirit, her family has refilled them, and they ask that you take one home with you as a remembrance that Meraly would want you to have. Think of it as her way of saying thank you, love you, and as a sign that we are never alone. Meraly worked hard to build community, wanting no one to ever feel alone. One of her favorite prayers, Oseh Shalom, asks for, yearns for peace and wholeness to come to us and to our world. Cantor Avery and I each sang to Meraly these words, this melody. Please join us in this moment, bringing our hearts together in peace and remembrance as we sing.
Oseh Shalom bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Oseh Shalom bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Yaseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. 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 Amen, amen. Just a note about tzedakah. The family has asked that if you would like to donate money in Meraly's name, that you do so to JFS, Har HaShem, Denver Botanical Gardens, the Colorado Brain Injury Alliance, or the Denver Children's Advocacy Center. Then the family has information on Shivas, and there may be more information coming in a Har HaShem email about Shivas. I'm going to chant now the El Male Rahamim, and the words which I'm about to chant express the following. May the source of life, the fountain of all being, open our hearts to compassion and our eyes to wisdom, that we might glimpse in perfect peace and sadness the way of all things. May Meraly's memory be for us a blessing, and may we never let the light of her love grow dim in our hearts. May we remember all her worthy and righteous deeds. May her memory be forever bound up in the bond of life. God is our source and our destination, our beginning and our end. May Meraly's death awaken us to this truth, that the bond of love we shared and share will not be severed in sorrow. May she rest in peace, and together we say, Amen. I ask you to now rise as you are able. El Male Rachamim Shochein B'Meromim Ametzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina Im Kedoshim U'Tehorim Kezohar HaRakia Mazhirim Et Nishmat Minsa Bat Yisar U'Menucha Shehalcha Le'olama Bal HaRachamim Yasdireha Beseter Knafav Le'olamim Veyitzror Bitzaror HaChayim Et Nishmata Adonai Hu Nachalata V'tanuach B'shalom Al Mishkava V'nomar Amen. And we remain standing and read our Kaddish prayer together. May the love and eternal connection of our souls give us strength as we turn to recite the words hallowed by time, sanctifying the name of God. We honor the memory of Meraly Brown with the words of Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'gala uv'izman kariv imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam ul'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar, v'yit aleh, v'yit halal, shemei de kurusha, brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, d'amiram be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, V'imru, amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all our mourners. And let us say, amen. May the Holy One of blessing, from whom all things come, and to whom all things are once again at the end received, give us light and peace on this day of grief and mourning. And may our service of memory for Meraly Brown bring comfort and strength. This concludes our service.